Yes, Sean was saying there, it's thought around 3 million people, including some self-employed and small business owners, have been left ineligible for any government help during the pandemic.
Now, the campaign group Excluded UK says that it has left people without any form of income and fearing for the future.
We're now joined by the group's spokesperson, that's Ellie Phillips, and self-employed curtain fitter Mark Whittaker. Very good morning to you both. Mark, maybe we could start with you, just so people understand your circumstances and how it is that you're not eligible for any of the arrangements that have been set up. Can you just explain that for us?
Well, basically, I set up in business in October 2018. Prior to that, I was employed. And because my overall earnings for the year, the greater proportion of it was from employment and not self-employment, that automatically disbars you from the self-employed support scheme.
Right, so that means you're precluded from being part of that. Now, Rishi Sunak yesterday, when he made his announcement in the House of Commons, said one phrase that many people have latched onto. He said, no one, Mark, and I address this to you, Rishi Sunak's statement yesterday, no one will be left without hope. I wonder, when you heard those words, what did you think?
Frankly, I burst out laughing. He's left the excluded 3 million plus without hope for the last 3 to 4 months. It's nonsense, frankly. It's empty words and it's meaningless. Can I ask you,
Mark, in practical terms, what does without hope look like for you, for your family, and about what, you know, how life is right now?
Well, how is life for anybody without any income? How are people supposed to survive with no money coming in? It's ridiculous. I wouldn't treat a dog the way he's treating us.
Mark, what do you need? What do you need right now?
We need parity. We need the same support that every other section of society has received. And rightly so. I take my hat off to the Chancellor for doing that much. But why stop? Why has a line in the sand been drawn? We're still citizens of this country, no matter how we pay our tax. It's obscene what's been done to us, frankly.
Ellie, can you reflect on what Mark has been said? Because I imagine you're pretty much in a very similar situation, and you've set up this group, obviously, to campaign to try to get more equanimity, I suppose, and a treatment that you see as fairer.
Yeah, I'm actually the spokesperson for Forgotten PAYE, who represents the 1.7 million forgotten freelancers. I'm also a representative for Excluded UK, which is a CIC that's been set up to support the 3 million plus who've been excluded from this. And Mark's story, unfortunately, is one of millions. I mean, we hear from people every day who are really beyond it now. Like he said, it's been 4 months, and you know, these people have had zero income for that length of time for the most arbitrary reasons. You know, he mentioned the 50% rule, which prohibits like a lot of taxpayers from accessing this support. And I think the point is that they are all taxpayers, we are all taxpayers, and it seems that Rishi Sunak has for some reason decided to discriminate against self-employed people for no good reason, because self-employed people, regardless of how they pay tax, whether it's through PAYE, whether it's through a tax return, even whether it's through dividends, they pay tax. And, you know, he keeps going on about he wants to create jobs, but he hasn't invested any money in these 3 to 5 million taxpayers that he keeps ignoring. He won't even acknowledge that we exist. And I think that was one of the really disappointing things about what happened yesterday. There wasn't even an acknowledgement that these 3 to 5 million people exist, despite the fact that the Treasury Select Committee themselves, a Tory-led, Tory-backed Treasury Select Committee, has said that they exist. Despite the fact that now Excluded UK have, created an APPG with over 200 MPs, including over 50 Tory MPs are involved in that now, and he's still acting and insisting that we don't exist. That is systematic gaslighting of 3 million taxpayers, and all they're asking for is parity. They're not asking for special treatment, they're not asking for handouts, they're asking for equality and fairness of a system that they've paid into. Some of these people have paid tax for 40 years and they're being left with zero. And he keeps spouting lies that, you know, that there's other support out there for them. There isn't.
Mark, we have Rishi Sunak speaking to us in, about 15 minutes' time here on the programme. You're saying your voices, and Ellie was explaining that very clearly there, very passionately, are not being heard. Your circumstances are not being heard. What would you say to the Chancellor if you were given that opportunity? Please, just give us an idea of what you would actually want him to know about your life and what's happening.
Well, I prepared a question. I hope you don't mind. I'm gonna read it out because I spent a lot of time thinking about it. So, anyway, I welcome the Chancellor's statement that no one will be left without hope. But in light of the campaign by Excluded UK and others, recommendations by the Treasury Committee and pressure from the APPG on Tuesday, can I ask, why don't you do the right thing for the right reasons now before you're shamed into it?
Well, I appreciate that you took the trouble to write that down and you thought very hard about those words. What I'm detecting, and I see a heavy sigh after you read out the words that you'd written down, Mark, I'm detecting quite a bit of anger and a lot of genuine worry about your future and presumably the future for your family.
I can't get my head round how the Chancellor expects any person, any citizen of this country to survive on zero income. How is that possible? Could he manage it? If he can manage it, please tell me how to do it and I'll just get on with it. I don't want anything. I don't want a handout. I don't want anything. I want parity and that's it. Tell me how people in my situation with children, mortgages, rent to pay, bills to pay, how do we survive? It's that simple.
How close, Mark, are you to the very edge? I mean, just...
You can probably see, actually, I did it I've done it before, and I've been in a situation for months now. How close do we have to get? How many people, frankly, will end up killing themselves because of this? He's had prior warning of what's to come. How many people have got to die by their own hand before he takes action? It's obscene, frankly.
Mark, one of the things we're very conscious of is when we have someone like you who is in, and a desperate situation, there is a duty of care on our part. So we're going to make sure we get in touch with you after this programme, just to see if there's, and make sure obviously you're in touch with Ellie as well, because I think one of the things that is very evident is that it takes a lot to come on to national television and just, you know, put yourself out there and just show how desperate this is. And we are going to clip up a couple of the things you've said today and put that to the Chancellor, and maybe we might even be able to get to talk to you after and see your reaction. But please know that we are conscious that we've spoken to you on air this morning, and you are in a very raw place, and it's totally understandable. Ellie, you know, you reflect on this. I mean, your personal situation as well. There is a reason you've got to this level where you've got with this campaign group. What does life look like for you?
I mean, I consider myself one of the lucky ones because both my parents are alive and I have a partner. So I've never kind of had to go to bed at night worrying about if there's going to be a roof over my head or food in my belly, because I'm privileged in that way. But I'm very hyper aware that a lot of people aren't. 3 to 5 million aren't. They have dependents. When we talk about this 3 to 5 million, these 3 to 5 million taxpayers, that doesn't even take into account their children. And I just want to put it in context. 3 million taxpayers, that's the equivalent of Wales. That's the equivalent of the population of Wales that have been ignored. And we're absolutely fed up of Rishi Sunak ignoring the problem and just avoiding answering the questions whenever he's asked about it. And he'll do the same to you guys. Whenever he's asked about these excluded people, he quibbles with the numbers. Well, publish the figures then. He'll say, oh, we've put in place one of the largest, most comprehensive, most generous economic responses in the world. We don't want to know what you've done. We want to know what you are going to do. That doesn't answer the question for these people who had no support.
Ellie, I'll be interviewing Rishi Sunak in 7 minutes. We'll be talking to him shortly. We're going to take on board what you've said, as well as go through the announcement. Mark, we're going to call you. One of our producers is going to be calling you after. Hopefully, you'll see we'll put some of the questions to Rishi Sunak, maybe even get a chance to chat to you after. And I cannot say thank you enough for just talking to us and being so honest with us this morning. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
So that was Mark Whittaker and Ellie Phillips talking to us very much about how the announcements are